Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of Ranking the Albums. And today, for this Kim Mitchell solo catalog ranking, we've got two of my fine friends from In the Prog Seat and also for Fusion Friday, Chad Hutchinson and Eric Porter in the house today. What's happening, my good friends? How are you?
How's it going?
Good morning.
Morning.
On this, yeah, it's Sunday morning when folks are watching this, but we're actually doing this early on a Saturday morning because I generally record the Ranking the Album shows on Saturday. So, but
We
beautiful
blew
weather
your
here in
cover.
the Hudson Valley.
We blew
Uh,
your cover, Pete.
I know. It's all the secrets are revealed, right? But it's a gorgeous day. I think it's going to be spring-like temperatures today, but tomorrow back to winter.
Yeah, we go back downhill tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah.
Alpha
So
Lumber.
Kim Mitchell, of course, the guitar player and singer and songwriter, formerly of the great band Max Webster up in the Great White North. Once Max Webster broke up, he has gone through a solo career to this day, and early on releasing albums fairly frequently, but not so much in recent years. Early on also had somewhat of a consistent band, but that kind of ended after a couple albums, and he just had different folks on every album. But like for the early part of the catalog, Peter Fredette on guitars, keyboards, and vocals, Robert Sinclair Wilson bass, keyboards, and vocals, Paul DeJong on drums, and of course, Pi Dubois writing most of the lyrics on a good chunk of the catalog up until a point. And for those who don't know, Pi Dubois was the main lyricist in Max Webster and also worked with Rush very, very briefly as
Songs,
well. So we're going to do it a little bit differently today. We generally don't include EPs when we do these rankings. However, his first release was an EP. It's beloved by fans. It's really great. We're going to throw it in here today. So we're going to rank 9 albums, 8 full length, 1 EP, and we're going to rank them in the order that we like them. We're going to start off, of course, with 9, 8, and 7. We'll do three in a row in each trip
yeah.
around. So Eric, why don't you kick us off with your number 9, your number 8, and your number 7?
Okay, so I just have to say that um, there are artists that mean a lot to you. For some reason, Kim Mitchell has always really meant a lot to me. His music. Pete and I both are products of the SUNY New York college education system. I chose to go, I know, Pete, you were close to home. I chose to go about as far north as you can get before hitting the border. So up to this point, I had no clue about Max Webster. I know I probably had heard Go for a Soda. I was in college up there from 87 to 89. And I remember walking in, meeting my roommate, unpacking. I had a guitar, and people are kind of meeting each other as everyone's checking back in, and got talking to a couple people. And oh, you play guitar. And so we were all sitting around. And somebody starts saying, have you ever heard of Kim Mitchell? I don't think so. And I think I heard Go for a Soda. I'm like, oh, yeah, I know that guy. Only song I knew. Absolutely fell in love with him. Joined the radio station. So back then, kind of pre-internet, you're still not a ton of information out there. But I taped at that time, I think he had the three solo, his first two full lengths and the EP, and I taped all the Max Webster. So I had my cassette collection of what he had at that time. But I know people, feel certain ways, and it's probably a sentimental thing for me that uh, I don't know. I just got introduced to him up there, and he was probably my college. He's always my summer music. I always throw on Kim Mitchell in the summer, even though nobody else knows who he is. But he's just one of those artists for me that it's like he just puts me in a good mood. I love his stuff. So to start the ranking, I'm going to go with kind of where Pete mentioned he had a pretty regular output. And then towards the end of the 90s, he kind of, I don't want to say he disappeared because I know he's always played live, but he kind of stopped recording. I think he lost his contract with Alert Music, which was kind of the big one, I think, that he was on right through most of his career in Canada. So I'm starting with Kimosabi. That's my number 9. And again, his albums are very consistent. So I found these very hard to rank. George Lamy will probably hate me because I love the softies. Um, just everything he does just kind of gets me. But on this one, I think Monkey Shine, the opener, that's another thing I want to say is he has great opening tunes. He really does. And it's got a very odd transition and goes into the solo. I like how even though his output's kind of similar, and I'm not saying that in a bad way, but he's very consistent, very similar. Every once in a while, he kind of throws you a curveball. And I know Max Webster did that a lot more than he did in his solo career. But I think that break in Monkey Shine, got a great guitar solo, and it's just this odd break in the song that's really cool.
Weird lyrics
Um,
too.
yes, yes. Um, Skinny Buddha is another one that just has an amazing guitar solo. And like I said, there's a couple kind of mellow ones that always do it for me. So I'm going to go with Kemosabe at number 9. My number 8, this one was kind of it's grown on me. Let's put it that way. When it came out, I was right in the middle of I just had kind of gotten everything from him and Max Webster. And this is Rockland, came out in 1989. And for some reason, I remember when I got it, I was kind of underwhelmed. But as going back and listening to this, I think there's some really good tracks on here. Again, a couple of the curveballs. Mood Street is fantastic, and it's kind of not in his typical vein, but I really enjoy that one. Expedition Sailor is another one. Um, George, don't kill me for these, but Lost Lovers Found, I think, is amazing. I don't know how this guy missed in America. And Kim, if you're watching, you should have been a star, man. I just don't get it. I like everything he writes is catchy. They're good tunes, great transitions, great bridges. I don't get it. And this was actually he was signed to Atlantic Records for two. I think Shaken Like a Human Being from '86 and this one were on Atlantic. I have the Atlantic version of this one. Shaken Like a Human Being, I have the alert version. So I must have bought that when I was at school and got the Canadian version.
Same here.
Rockland for me, I was like I said, I was waiting for this one when I heard it was coming out, and for some reason, it just didn't hit me as hard as what I'd heard previously. But going back and listening to it, I really, like I said, I think of the 9, these were hard to rank because he's very consistent, but it's really a good record. And then my number 7, uh, what I might chalk up as one of his lesser album covers, Oral Fixations. Um, this is another one. I think this was, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, is it 94 or 91? Was
92.
this 92?
92.
Okay. Um, really, again, I think this is a guy who just hits his stride. Great opener, World's Such a Wonder. Pure as Gold, kind of one of those mellow tracks. I love his clean guitar tone on he uses it kind of throughout his career, but on that track, there's this nice clean tone, kind of that compressed tone. It just really sounds good. America, great, just a pop tune, but very catchy. You're going to hear that word a lot from me. Catchy melodies. Some Folks is one of those mellow tunes that just hits me. I love his stuff. And a rarity on this one is the closer,
Mhm.
Honey, Forget Those Blues. It's an instrumental, which you don't hear from him. Uh, and if I haven't mentioned it, he's one of my favorite guitar players. This guy can play. He's unbelievable. I would have liked to hear more instrumentals in his catalog, but it's a really cool tune. It's almost like this dance hall. I know I'll have the era wrong, like a 20s or 30s kind of sound at times, but
Exactly
really
right.
cool little instrumental, pretty short.
It's
Uh,
great.
I agree. So those are my first, or 9 through 7 for me.
Yeah, Oral Fixations isn't his best cover. It goes with the title, but in Europe they wouldn't allow it. So the inner cover is actually the cover
Oh,
for
Rockland. Is that the
no,
inside
that's Oral
picture?
Fixations. That's inside the booklet.
Oh,
That's the
okay.
cover for Europe.
It's a pretty good picture of him.
It is.
Photograph
And
of
it
him.
is probably
Chad, this is the picture in my Rockland booklet. Kind of looks
no.
similar.
In Oral Fixations.
I know, but I'm thinking it's like timing wise, it's kind of that same look with the cowboy hat and stuff, right?
Cowboy hat, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I think to answer your question, Eric, about why he wasn't a bigger star, honestly, I don't, you know how much image is here in the States? I don't think record labels saw him as someone that they could promote because
They
he
could
just didn't
market.
have the it factor. Even though the voice is there, the songwriting is there, and the guitar chops are there. Because I
Yep.
agree with you. I think pretty much everything that he was all about seemed like a no-brainer for mega stardom here in the States, and it just never happened. Because I mean, You just look at him. He doesn't look like your typical marketable rock star here.
He was a
I think
70s
that's what
rock
it
star
is.
that transitioned over to, to more of a straightforward style.
Yeah.
But I mean, the video for Go for Soda, as goofy as it is no goofier than what was all over MTV at that time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that seemed to be his personality. He was kind of one of
Yeah.
those,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, whatever.
All right, Chad, over to you. Your
All right,
rock.
a quick story. So, spring break of '92, a friend of mine, my friend Randy, and I decided to just road trip it, and so we went up to Toronto, and I guess maybe we crossed the border, maybe we were like Mississauga area, but we were close to our destination, and we put on Q107, which incidentally, that's where Kim worked from as a DJ from '94 for about 11 years, which explains some of the slower output. But we had Q107 on, and this new song from Kim Mitchell came on, and I knew him from Max Webster, and it was great. Loved it. It was off of Oral Fixations. So we're driving around that same couple of days. Another song from the album, like, oh, we got to find a record store. I got to find this. Go to Sam the Music Man right on Young Street, which I don't think exists anymore, and we find out that the album comes out in a week. So there's my luck. So after I got home, I had to find an import and all that kind of thing. But that was my first dip into Kim's solo music, except for Kids in Action, which shows up on the Kim Mitchell Greatest Hits album. So I was excited to hear that, and that kind of started me down the path of finding all his solo stuff. But to the ranking, Eric, I apologize, but number 9 is going to be the big Fantasize from 2020.
Okay.
I know you love this. It's much more acoustic. It's much more mellow. Your singer-songwriter stuff. I like some of this. It's not what I want from Kim Mitchell. I want him plugged in. I want him riffing my face off.
Fair. Okay, that's fair.
To put it mildly, right? Yeah.
Yeah. But as far as songs, like the opener, Red Horizon, nice slow track, really nice melody. Too Up to Be Down's a good a beat tune, more electric. Montgomery might as well be a country song. I mean, the first half of that, it's a country song, and it sort of transitions.
There's a few of
more
them.
into, yeah, and it transitions more into, the Kim Mitchell style. But boy, does that start off as a country song. And I like The Closer. I like Time to Stay. I think that's a nice song. But if I'm reaching for a Kim Mitchell album, I'm looking to get my blood pressure up a little bit, and it's not going to be an acoustic guitar. So sorry, Eric.
That's okay.
That's number 9. I will agree with you on my number 8, though, and I think Kimosabi, while good, again, the preface is I like all his albums. We have to rank them somewhere. Kimosabi from '99, I feel it's probably his weakest of the songs. Like you said, Monkey Shine's a good song. I like Kimosabi. I don't really like Skinny Buddha. I think it's kind of a silly song. Get Back What's Gone, I don't really like. He's got Del Bello singing with him, and I don't think he uses her very well. But it's a lot of the other songs are a little pedestrian, and they kind of just sort of run together. They're still decent songs. They just don't stand out like some of the songs from some of the album tracks from his other albums. So yeah, Kimosabi is sort of that probably the lowest point in the rock stuff for me. And then the middle gets muddy. But like you said, we got to rank them somehow. So even though I like this, there's a couple great songs on it. I'm going to go Shaking Like a Human Being. And part of the reason is this is his 80s, the most 80s production that he has. A lot of terrible keyboard patches, but there's some great songs on here. Get Lucky Boys and Girls, another great opener, a lot of fun. Patio Lanterns is one of his most beloved songs. I think the version of Patio Lanterns on his greatest hits on this one is that the re-recording is actually better than the one from the album. That's the Hold is a phenomenal song. That's a great rocker. If I'm going to pick a top 5 Kim Mitchell songs, that one's in there or close. The Closer, Hitting the Ground's great. As far as slower songs, Atlanta Loves Me is good. That was big on the radio for him in Canada. And
there's a good remake of that too. Check that out online. Really good remake of it. More acoustic.
Oh yeah, okay. And then what's the other one I like? Oh, Easy to Tame. That's a slower song, but it's very. I'll use your
Little
word.
country there,
Catchy.
Chad. Little
I
country on
know,
that.
I know. I mean, if I look through here, you mentioned Pure as Gold, and some folks from Oral Fixations, they're kind of twangy.
Yeah.
But so yeah, so number 7 is Shaken Like a Human Being from '86. It's not as even as some of the other ones that are coming up for me, and that the production's a little tough at times.
Cool. All right. The bottom three for me, I don't have hard copies of any of them, so maybe Chad can hold them up. But number 9 for me, yeah, the Big Fantasize from
Oh,
2020.
here you go. I'll do it this
Uh,
way for you. There's for
what's that?
Pete.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I mean, I would agree with Chad. It's too much acoustic guitar, too much country twang for me. Some of the vocal harmonies, as always, are really, really well done. I think Two Up to Be Down, that's a pretty fun song.
Mhm.
The vocal harmonies are spectacular. The chorus is so catchy. I don't like Wishes at all. I think the
No, I
best,
thought I'd like that one more too because that was the first single and it didn't do much for me.
That
yeah,
one gets me. I'm sorry. I love that tune. I
yeah.
get it though. I get it. I get it.
Red Horizon, that's okay, but Georgian Bay, the old Marriage Waltz, doesn't do much for me. I don't know. I find a lot of it's just really laid back. I'm missing the rock stuff on this album. I think the songwriting is good. It's just the way it's presented. It's not really my cup of tea. Not really what I want from Kim Mitchell. But yeah, he's got to plug in a little bit more for my taste. But again, I could see why some people would really enjoy this album because I think the songwriting is there as always on these records. So that's my number 9. My number 8 is Kemosabe, the sixth or however you want to look at it, depending on what you count. Kim is producing this album. I think it sounds good. Yeah, you got less guest stars on this particular album. He's got Randy Cook on drums, Peter Fredette on bass, Gary Breed on keyboards. I think Monkey Shine is a lot of fun. I don't know about you guys. Stick in My Heart reminds me of kind of like a harder rockin' Tom Petty. It's got that kind of like Heartland type of thing going on. The chorus is really
Yeah,
nice.
it's funny you say that because apparently Kim Mitchell's a huge fan of Tom Petty.
That
Oh,
it's not surprising then because I hear
I
it a
didn't
lot
know
on
that.
this album. Cellophane is good. I don't really like Two Steps Home much. Title track is pretty good. Good guitar licks on that. Blow Me a Kiss is just so cool. I mean, it's a pop song, but man, the hooks are there. And if this guy just wanted to do nothing but write pop songs, he could totally do it. Cold Reality, very, very similar. Over Me, also just upbeat pop. Get Back What's Gone. Yeah, I don't want to hear him do kind of like bluesy stuff. It's kind of pop, it's kind of bluesy, it's kind of bland. I don't know. Um, Skinny Buddha, that's okay. It's got some cool organs, some tasty guitar licks. Chorus is pretty good. For me, I find this album kind of front loaded. I think there's some really good stuff at the beginning, kind of loses steam on the back end a little bit, but not terrible by any means. But of his more like electric albums, if we're taking the Big Fantasize and putting that somewhere else, this is easily my least favorite of the rest. And then number 7, I'm going to go with Rockland. So this is his 1989 album, Pi Dubois. After taking an album off from working with each other, he's back writing lyrics on this. Whole new group of musicians once again. I think Rockland Wonderland, pretty good rocker, pretty catchy. Lost Lovers Found has got a little bit more of that moody thing. He does the moody mid-pace stuff very, very well too. Rock and Roll Duty, that's the big time arena rock Kim Mitchell that I want to hear.
Mhm.
Big riffing, big chorus, shredding guitar solo. Sign me up for that type of stuff all the time. Mood Street, again, kind of bluesy, not too bad. It's okay. Good, great backing vocals, tasty guitars. The Crossroads, that 80s kind of synth and drum sound, but the chorus is really catchy. Reminds me, and a lot of this stuff does, reminds me of similar era, the Tubes.
Ah,
Now I get he's got I love his voice, but I've always like for years I've always been like, God, Kim reminds me of someone else, but actually he reminds me of a few people. He reminds me of Fee Waybill. He reminds me of Steve Lukather from Toto, and I
oh,
can't think of the other guy. It'll come to me, but yeah, it's like I think the Tubes have a similar way of kind of crafting this artful kind of arena rock, pop rock type of thing. And I think Kim has very similar sensibilities. Oh Mercy Louise is a good hard rocker. This Dream, kind of atmospheric, kind of cool. I dig it. Tasty guitars. I think it's a really good album. but it's my number 7. So
Yeah, it's
hard to
funny.
rank.
Pete, you and I talked about it briefly over pizza last weekend, but he seems to have three categories of songs, like the rockers with the riffs, like the arena stuff, which is his his bread and butter. Then he's got a lot of like the mid tempo stuff, and they vary from great to good. He's very good at doing those. They don't stand out necessarily all the time, but they're always well done.
Yeah.
And then he's got the ballads.
Yep.
And whether you like ballads or not is that's a personal choice. But even those, they're well done. Eric loves them. I can see him
I love
smiling.
him. And I'm normally not a ballad guy. That's why I said George is I'm gonna be in trouble. But yeah, I think he does them
But
great.
even on his ballads, he's like his guitar licks and the solos and what he's doing is great. It's just
He usually
hear him
sneaks a
play.
little side, even if it's a quick run, you usually get
Yeah,
okay. Yeah,
right.
there he is.
There's a difference. A good ballad that has a great hook is a beautiful thing.
Yep.
A sappy ballad that doesn't go anywhere, that's just kind of a ballad for the sake of having a ballad, it's not memorable, is not a good ballad, right? So
Yep.
it's very, there's lots and lots of artists throughout music history that have made a living on writing great ballads. Great ballad is a great ballad, right? Not everybody can do it.
Very
This
true.
guy can.
Yep.
All right, Eric, back to you.
Okay, so I'm gonna go with Itch at number 6, probably another not so great album cover.
Yeah.
And I wanted to bring up a
Most of
point
these are not great.
I wanted to bring up a point that both you and Chad made with the backing vocals. I think it shows how important Peter Fredette is to the sound of Kim Mitchell, because he kind of used them pretty much right out of the gate. And I don't even know, is it the first record he's listed with backing vocals? I don't know that he recorded, maybe he was touring, but I think he had another bass player for those years, and Fredette maybe just did the studio stuff. But he's been with him for a long time now, and their voices mesh perfectly. And Peter kind of does the higher stuff where Kim kind of stays with the song. But I think he's like a secret weapon for that, because like you said,
Yeah.
Pete, those choruses are catchy as hell, and having those harmonies are just amazing. But
I saw
I think
someone,
he played some rhythm guitar as well
yes,
at
yeah.
one point.
you're right.
But I
Someone-
saw a couple interviews with Kim. He said that his deal with Peter is that Peter sings and Kim will yell.
I disagree. I mean, you know me, I'm tough on singers. I love Kim Mitchell's voice.
Yeah, I didn't agree with that too, but I thought it was funny. He said it more than once.
He's kind of that's his personality. He's got like that self-deprecating. He's always like,
oh,
I'm a
100%.
Canadian, or I'm the insecure Canadian, he always says. And so, but with Itch again, I think it's got another great opener, and I think this was his last album to chart in Canada. I did go out and look, and I think this was the
Right.
last one, like 55. So he kind of, like you said, Chad, I know he started the radio stuff around 94, 95, I think, and did that for a number of years. Great opener, Wonder Where and Why. Just cool guitar lick. And we've all said that about him as well, even if he's not going off on a solo. I love his clean tone. I love the way he uses the compression with the clean tone. It's just really good. Acrimony, I'm not a big fan of the talking parts of that, but again, I think that has a catchy chorus, really good guitar solo in that one. Kind of a mellow closer, but I've told you I like his mellow stuff a lot. Cheer Us On. I think really the only thing that Your Face or Mine is probably one of the forgettable tunes. Lemon Wedge is kind of goofy, but it's got that funky tune, probably the keyboard horns in there. But I don't know. It's like one of his fun party tunes, I think. It just kind of fits in there. And Lemon Wedge, and just good stuff. So that's my number 6. My number 5 is Ain't Life Amazing? And this was a big break, I think. Maybe not his biggest, but I think this was 2007. So there was a good 8-year difference between this one and Kimosabi, which was 99. And I don't know. Again, the thing with this one is his voice sounds a little different to me on this record, almost like it's a little gruff. Still sounds like Kim, but there's a little something different about his, just the sound of his vocal. Again, the title track opens it up. Like I said, I pretty much like all his opening tunes, really good. Rock That Rhyme is a great straight up rocker. I'll throw my softie in for this one. Love Overtime, just That's another one that just gets me. This one falls off a little bit. In the Stars Tonight, I really like. Maybe the last couple. Um, Lick a Message is decent, good opening riff and good rocker. New Orleans Night is kind of got that sing along thing. So again, it's not obviously my favorite. It's kind of a middle of the pack record for me, but it was nice to see him come back and do some recording and, good stuff. I think his guitar kind of comes back a little bit on this record too, because, Pete mentioned, and I think even you mentioned, Chad, Kimosabi's the guitar's a little downplayed except for a couple tracks. And this one, I think it really kind of stands out and gets ripping.
Did you get to the hidden track?
What's that?
Did you get to the hidden track?
Oh, I did, but I'm just, let me see if
Fill your head with rock.
Fill your head with, but you're waiting like 10 minutes, right? There's this like blank spot before you get to it. Yeah, that's a great, and that's like his early stuff to me. That Fill Your Head with that's like something on the EP or that's got more of that.
That's actually the title track to his European greatest hits. That's what that song ended up to.
Didn't know that. Chad, you're throwing out the trivia here. I like it.
Here you go.
And Chad, this is where I was talking about my sentimentality coming into play. I'm going with Shaking Like a Human Being here. So this would be my number 4. It's kind of the first thing I heard from him. So I get it. Like I'll listen back now. Patio Lanterns. Boy, those keyboards are kind of cheesy, right? But it's just a good tune.
Great
I think
song.
you mentioned Get Lucky is a great opener, just a kicker. That's the Hold. Atlanta Loves Me is a great pop tune. In My Shoes. Watching Pete's and Martin's show on the front loading. I was sitting there listening to these, like, where do they kind of fall off? And every once in a while you might get City Girls kind of okay, but then I think Easy to Tame and Hitting the Ground or bring the album back up at the end. So to me, this kind of.
But Cameo Spirit's not
Cameo
good.
Spirit, okay, I know.
I
was kind of avoiding
that. Was not good.
But that one's a sentimental record for me because I actually think that might be the first one that I taped at the radio. So I just remember pulling his stuff and sitting in the room and taping stuff. And that at the time, I think it was just the EP, his first solo album, and that one. So that might be the first one that I actually got. So it's got that kind of, and I was listening to it when those sounds were out there. You know what I mean? You listen back now and I hear it though. I hear it.
Yeah, sometimes it's like it's all a matter of when you kind of came on board with it, right?
Yep, yeah, absolutely.
There's plenty of things that I love that I will admit sound a little dated and maybe aren't the greatest, but you have a soft spot for it because that's where you kind of came in.
So, exactly.
That's where I am with all those one-hit wonders of the 80s. I like a lot of that stuff because that's what
you grew up on.
That's what was in my face, early MTV days and all that. So
yeah, for sure.
All right. So my number 6, I'm going to go with Ain't Life Amazing. Like you said, Eric, this is the return of the Kim Mitchell guitar riff. It's loaded. This album's loaded with guitar. It's like the title track is great. His cover of Spirits, I Got a Line on You is killer.
Yeah, really good.
Really good. He's not a cover guy, and this thing smokes.
Yeah. It's a really great song, regardless. But yeah, he does a great job on it.
And there's not a lot of songs. Somebody asked me recently, maybe it was Anthony. He's like, how does his solo stuff compare to Kim or to Max Webster? I'm like, I'm looking at the songs. There aren't many that could I could say could be a Max Webster song. One on here though, Dream Thieves is very different.
Yeah,
very kind of weird song, and it's a little quirky. Could sort of lean that way. Something from the EP like Chain of Events or Kids in Action maybe, but there's not a lot. Maybe even just something like you said, like Lemon Wedge and what do you call it? Acrimony, because those two songs are kind of nuts. But anyway, Ain't Life Amazing? Dream Space is a great song. Killer's Name is a little interesting lyrically, but it's a cool song. Lick a Message, again, lyrically odd. Lick a Message Off My Chest. Okay, Kim. And Fill Your Head with Rock is not his best rock anthem, but it's pretty good.
Yeah, it's good.
I don't like Nolan Nights at all, really. But I think, and you mentioned Rock That Rhyme. I think that's a great song. So there's a lot of stuff on here that's guitar focused, and that's what kind of pushed this up the list a little bit for me, like over Shaking Like a Human Being, even though it's one of the newer ones. And Shaking has, that's the whole patio lanterns, but this one I think is more consistent, and that guitar is really up front. Next up, where are we? Five, doing Rockland. Um, this is the follow-up to Shaking Like a Human Being, and the same theme. I feel like the guitar came back a little bit harder on this than it was on Shaking Like a Human Being. You got a little bit more organ coming in, less of the synthy stuff. There's still some. Rockland Wonderland's great. Rock and Roll Duty, like Pete said, it's just, that's an anthem and a half. Mood Street's cool. Exposition Sailor, nice slow tune. Acoustic guitar by Rick Emmett of Triumph on that one, which is awesome.
Oh, I didn't know that either.
There's also another version of that on his greatest hits that I don't think is as good as the original. It's still good. It's a little slightly different arrangement. Still has the acoustic in there. But as far as a slow tune, that's a really, really good one. That might be my favorite of his slower songs in the whole catalog. Oh, Mercy Louise. Usually when there's a girl's name in the title, it's going to be like, here we go. This one smokes. Oh, Mercy Louise is a lot of fun. I thought there was another one in here. I'd have to look when someone else was talking. I thought it was like, all right, I'll accept that. It's pretty good. But Oh Mercy Louise is pretty great. Don't love the last two. This Dream, The Great Embrace. The Great Embrace is sort of meh. But overall, it's a pretty solid album. So yeah, Rockland is my number. Geez, what are we at? 5. And then number 4, I'm going to actually get to an album before Eric does. And I'm going with the EP. As great as it is, I like some other things better. And this only has 5 songs, so it can't be number 1. But every song on here is great. All 5 of them. Kids in Action, Misdemeanor, Big Best Summer, Tennessee Water, Chain of Events, all great. All upfront guitar in your face. Kids in Action is probably my favorite from this. That's just a phenomenal song. And then, like I said before, Chain of Events is one that could have been a Max Webster song. It just has that vibe to it. But Eric, do you have the EP on CD? Oh, you have the jewel case? Yeah, I never did find it. I got it as part of the Max Webster
Box set.
remaster box set thing.
Okay.
I had both. I wound up giving the original CD away because it came with the box set. So.
Okay, yeah. Which this is great. I had a couple holes in my Max Webster collection when this came out. I'm like, I'm buying all the remasters and I get the EP. So
Yep.
and the bonus bootleg thing. So
That's right. Yep, you get that.
Yeah.
And that live album, which I remember spending a shit ton of money for the live album on CD because it was out of print for years. Then literally like 3 months later, they came out with the box set with the live album. I'm like, fuck.
yeah, that's a great live album. And then the EP has like I don't know if it's a song from this show, but it's certainly from that tour. Yeah, Live Magnetic Air is great.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my number 4 being the EP.
Cool. All right, my number 6 is "Shaken Like a Human Being" from 1986. A lot of what you guys said, I agree with. I think for me, there's some real highs on this album, and there's some lows on this album. Some songs that just don't appeal to me that much. What I really like, "Get Lucky Boys and Girls," great big anthemic Kim Mitchell rocker. Love the guitar tone, love the solo, really good. "In My Shoes," also really good. He's doing like this kind of like Van Halen-y type guitar licks on there. Absolutely love it. "Alana Love Me." I don't really love that all that much. I don't really like "Pattern Lanterns" all that much, or "Patio Lanterns" all that much either. They're both kind of like lighthearted little pop songs. They're okay for what they are, but they don't really hold my interest much.
You don't like
That's
Lemonade sitting on the porch because we're all too shy?
not all
Come
that.
on.
It's okay, but yeah. That's The Hold. That's another good cranking anthem. Great riffing on that. I don't like "In Your Arms." It's got a nice chorus, but again, it's just kind of light for me. "City Girl" I love. And that reminds me of the Tubes as well. And I don't know why they didn't release that as a single. That's really, really catchy, really infectious. Like it a lot. "Cameo Spirit." Yeah, I don't really like that at all. I do like "Hitting the Ground" though.
I
I
like
think
that.
that's
Yeah,
kind of
good.
a interesting, kind of like atmospheric piece. Got some good riffing. The synths are pretty good on there, and the chorus is great. So yeah, some really, really good songs on here. A couple that just don't really do much of anything for me. So kind of like in the middle of the pack for me. Number 5, I'm gonna go with "Itch," with that just bizarre cover. I mean, he obviously is scratching an itch on there, but all this other stuff, I don't really know what all that's supposed to be. It's like some kind of,
You got the big mosquito inside of it or whatever like that is.
yeah, I guess. I don't know. Just absolutely bizarre. Yeah, this is from 1994. Again, you got Pi Dubois contributing lyrics here, but this is the last one that they worked together on. So there's still a bunch that came afterwards that they didn't collaborate on. Um, I really like Wonder, Where, and Why. Just a terrific opener. Man, it's
Mhm.
just big,
Mm.
vibrant hard rocker. It's amazing how many of his albums have that like big punchy song that just grabs you right off the bat, which is just really, really cool. Um, Acrimony is kind of weird. It's kind of funky. It's got some almost like pseudo rapping parts, whatever. It's different, whatever. I'm not sure if I like it or not. It's okay. Lick Your Finger, cool bluesy rocker, nice guitar tone on that. I think Greg Morrow's drums are really, really good on this particular album. Really good. The US of Ache, it's okay. Lemon Wedge has got those kind of horns showing up. I like that. That's a lot of fun. Heartbreak Bus Stop. That's good. That reminds me of Toto. It's kind of up-tempo pop rock, whatever, great vocals. Your Face or Mine, Human Condition. Yeah, it's sprinkled with some really solid tracks, I think. So for me, I think it's a really enjoyable listen. Not a lot on here that I don't really connect with. And there's plenty of guitar in here, so I dig it. So that's my number five. And my number four, I'm gonna go with an album that I like quite a bit, but probably will rank higher for my friends here, and that's Akimbo Alago debut full length from '84. So of course, Gopher Soda was my introduction to this guy. I'll be quite honest, I had never even heard of Max Webster when I heard Gopher Soda, and think Ken Mitchell, formerly of Max Webster, and I'm like, who the hell's Max Webster? I don't know. And I remember I went out and got this on cassette, and I had the EP also, and then I never bought anything else from him. So like I played catch up with both Ken Mitchell and Max Webster like much later on. But Go for Soda is just amazing. I mean, it's a shame that was his only real hit here. It's just a really great track. That's a Man is really good. All We Are, that's okay. Kind of moody. Diary for Rock and Roll Men. I mean, that's just another one of those great anthemic tracks from him. Awesome chorus. Again, all right. So I mentioned that his vocals remind me of three other guys. So I finally remember who the third one was. So to me, he's like this mix of Fee Waybill, Steve Lukather, and Frank Marino. I love that style of singing. It's like he's in kind of like this mid-range, kind of like husky vocal style. Absolutely love it. I think he's a great singer. I think all three of those other guys are great singers. Love Ties is really good. Feel It Burn, again, kind of poppy, but in like a Toto way, very engaging. I like that. Lager and Ale is terrific. I
Mhm.
mean, that's just, I mean, any song about beer is okay by me, but as long as you make it musically interesting, because there's lots of metal bands that do songs about beer that don't interest me at all, but this is really good.
And
Uh,
country bands.
yeah. What else? Caroline, good AOR type track. Called Off, interesting song to have on the back end of the album. It's kind of mellow, kind of atmospheric, but the guitar solo is killer. So I think it's a really strong album. I think other folks might like it or rank it a little higher than me, but number four is still pretty high. I like it a lot. And yeah, the cover is again, if you're the record label and you're looking, I mean, I know they had another cover for this, but which I like better. But if you're looking to market a guy, that's just not really the way to do it. That's like goofier than Joe Walsh, right? But we love him anyway.
I
So
have
yeah,
to look. So there is another cover they were going to use for that.
yeah,
Yeah, I think it's blue. It's pretty plain, right? With a silhouette. It just says a Kimbo logo at the top.
Okay.
Or sorry,
yeah,
it just says Kim Mitchell. Yeah.
yeah.
I'm glad you brought up Eddie, or you brought up Eddie Van Halen before. I'm not saying that Kim Mitchell is an Eddie Van Halen disciple or even a similar guitar player,
And
but
there he
he's
is doing some tapping stuff, right? As
there
we
you
said,
go.
right?
But he's such a great guitar player. I think he's vastly underrated.
Oh yeah, for sure.
A lot of people in the United States certainly are missing out on this talent. In the past, like he's open for Van Halen, he's open for Def Leppard, he's open Sammy Hagar, Aerosmith. So when bands came to town to Toronto, Kim Mitchell was,
That's the guy, right?
he was up front for a lot of them. He opened a lot of them.
It's a real shame that they didn't bring him into the States to open for them as well.
Yeah,
I think
that would have been amazing.
that's one of the main things too, because I don't think Kim had a very high profile on the touring circuit here throughout the 80s, which is a real shame. He was open up for everybody in Canada, but that doesn't translate to what's going on here. So I think that also had a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I mean, to Eric's point from the beginning of the show, it's like you go through this catalog. If you never listened to Kim Mitchell before and you start investigating these albums, you're gonna be like, oh my God, there's like potential hit singles everywhere you go and FM rock radio tracks. It's like,
Right.
yeah, but hello, US, what happened
Yeah.
here, right?
Yeah, and it's not dissimilar to a band like Honeymoon Suite, which is huge in Canada, but their live shows, if you look at their list of live shows from their career, Kim Mitchell's the same way. Like they maybe snuck into northern New York, like the Buffalo area, and that's it. That's it.
Detroit, I think he hit
Right.
in Detroit too. So like you get that Michigan,
Yeah,
like you
it's
said,
there are two
Buffalo.
points where you can sneak across the border and play a show and go back
That's
to
about it.
Canada.
Right.
Yep.
So really, I mean, Rush was, and that was obviously Max Webster. That was his biggest exposure in the US in terms of
Yeah.
touring, right?
Opening for
We-
Rush, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, Max Webster's kind of a different story because they were just weird enough that they kind of didn't really fit anywhere, right? I mean,
Sure.
Kim, and maybe it's the Max Webster stigma that followed him around a little bit, but to Chad's point, there's really nothing for the most part in this discography that's anything like what he did with Max Webster.
True. True.
Way more accessible than that. Max
Absolutely.
Webster is probably too weird for a lot of people. There's nothing weird about this catalog at all. It's tailor made for anybody who just likes good rock and pop music. I mean, it's not too much guitar where people are like, oh my God, it's all these endless guitar solos. It's very tastefully done, very melodic, great choruses, great production for the most part. I don't know. I'm considering doing a show in over the next couple of weeks or whatever about like can't miss albums that radio completely missed
That
out
they
on here in the
missed.
States. He's the poster child for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That whole topic. It's crazy.
Can't misses that missed. How's
Yeah,
that?
exactly. Yes, exactly. All right, the final three, Eric, kick us off.
Okay. So I agree with Chad. I got to put the EP below just because it's an EP, but God, I mean, to come out of Max Webster and smack people in the face with this, and I'd have, like you said, Pete, I have no idea what people would have expected if, because you would do the same thing. If you follow a band and they break up, you usually want to hear what's happening, when they go solo or if they're in another band. I gotta think this blew people away. I don't know. I mean, it's hot, it's rock, Chad's mentioned it two or three times, Kids in Action. But you were mentioning Chain of Events, Chad.
Mhm.
That's a monster solo. Absolutely unbelievable solo. I think even Big Best Summer is another one. Great catchy chorus. And he does those things where, and maybe this was a little of what leaked over from Max Webster. That one has this little tricky change in it. But yet nothing sounds forced. It just sounds natural. And you could tell when you're listening to that track, you're like, ooh, that's a really cool transition.
Mhm.
But everything stays in line. I think Tennessee Water's just kind of like a straight up rocker party tune. But I mean the guitar on this, he's on
Oh,
fire.
it's killer. Yeah.
On fire. And Kids in Action, if that's not that could be his best opener. And it's just a killer track. Another one that how that doesn't get played on rock radio. I'm sure it got played in Canada. How nobody picked that up here is beyond me. I'm going to preach, but I don't get it. I just don't get it.
Amen, brother.
And then kind of where I veer off from you guys, and I can't explain it. This is number two. Now, there was a, I know it's kind of off center.
I'm just glad you didn't put that softy number one.
Well, I know that this is where George and I are going to have problems in our relationship, right? So I think what this was I've followed him, like I said, from college, and he did the radio thing. Ain't Life Amazing came out, and then it's just kind of I knew he was always playing shows, but is he ever going to do anything again? 13 years, I think, between Ain't Life Amazing and Big Fantasize. So this came out in 2020, and I remember buying it. And for some reason, I was listening to it, and I probably felt like you guys did, a little mellow. Dug the songwriting, and then it became my COVID album. I don't know why, but COVID hit. We were inside, and for some reason, I threw this on one day. Um, Red Horizon, I just think it's got this moody, atmospheric, but it's beautiful. I just think it's a beautiful track. Not normally what I would dig because I like to get smacked in the face with his guitar too. Too Up to Be Down is a fantastic rocker that fits in with anything like Get Lucky that can fit in any of his rock tunes. Summer Lovers and Autumn Wine, I don't know. It just pulls the strings for me. These mellow tunes on this record I fell in love with. And it was after, like I said, I play, you guys know how you listen, Pete and Chad, you got, I'm sure, piles of CDs on your desks that you're waiting to get to. And you listen to something once or
You don't
twice.
know the half of it, man.
And if it really doesn't connect, you kind of move on. But for some reason, I went back to this and really, I think, Pete, you mentioned Time to Say the Closer or Time to Stay the Closer. Yeah, but I think the songwriting on this is just amazing. Best I Never Had. Montgomery definitely has that country feel, but I love the atmosphere of that track. I just love it. Um,
Uh-oh.
Old Marriage Waltz, blah, but Pete, I got to disagree with you on Wishes, how that didn't get radio play. I don't know. It's beyond me. And if you go out on YouTube, he does just an acoustic version. He's sitting in his music room and it's fantastic. Just him unaccompanied voice and guitar. And my number one is Akimbo Lago. I don't know. This was the record. Shaken Like a Human Being, the EP, and this were my introduction, and I absolutely fell in love with this. Go for a Soda, amazing. That's a Man I Love. All We Are. This My softy stuff is coming, but the vocals in that are absolutely amazing. Another very atmospheric track. Called Off, I love. That's another thing. I think he's got a lot of good closers. I mean, that kind of, again, with Pete's show with Martin, you get that where I think he always kind of pulls the albums back. Rumor Has It, Lager and Ale, Caroline's decent, and then Called Off. I think, it's kind of one of those that even might go up a little bit towards the end. And I see we lost our buddy,
Yeah.
but disappearing. We're not done, Chad. We're not done.
Here he
So that's my number one.
is. Cool. He's back just in time for his turn.
Got him.
Yeah, sorry about that. The Wi-Fi decided to reset on me for no reason.
That happens. It happens.
All right, so
Technology.
I know what his number one was.
Yep.
So let's go. Number three for me is Itch. I love this album. I think I love the quirkiness of things like Lemon Wedge and Acrimony. When I first heard it, I said, "Wow, that's quite different." There's some weirdness there, but they really grew on me for some reason. Like you said, Wonder Where and Why, great opener. I think this is also loaded with a lot of guitar. And like I said, the quirk, probably the one I don't love is Karaoke Queen, but I don't think there's a bad song on here. US of Ache is a decent, slower tune. Like you said, Heartbreak Bus Stop. It's a pretty funny title too, by the way. Human Conditions, solid. That actually ended up to get that European Greatest Hits.
It's funny you said that, Chad, because when you look at the title, if you've never heard the song before, you're going to be like, how do you put that into a song? But it works.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think the first half of the album is better than the second half, but I think it's a pretty solid album. Your Face or Mine. That's just a funny title too. So I'll give him props on that. Number two, the debut album, Akimbo Logo, another guitar opus on the heels of the EP. This thing is just chock full of great guitar. Go for Soda. All We Are is a great slower one. Diary of a Rock and Roll Man. Lager and Ale is just amazing. Again, the re-recorded version of it on the Greatest Hits is better. I think it's much better personally. Rumor Has It's a great, really upbeat song. As far as his deep album tracks, I think Rumor Has It would be one of the best.
Hey, Chad, with those Greatest Hits, when did they come out? Like, what records do they not? I mean, I'm assuming the 2000 records, but where did
this Greatest Hits is 95.
Okay.
And interestingly enough, it doesn't have the best songs from Arnold's Fixations on it. It just has America.
Okay.
But there's another new song on here called Rainbow. And what's the song? I think it has some familiarity with Crossroads. I think it's Crossroads. Is that the one I'm thinking of? I think so. Yeah, I'll be standing at the, yeah. There's a little familiarity there, but yeah, there's two new songs on here. One is Rainbow, which is a pretty great rocker, and the other one is, where the heck did it go? No More Walking Away, good softy for Eric. But actually, it's actually a really nice, like slower tempo song. I really like it. And the other greatest hits is like the European one. Actually has a DVD with it. It's a live DVD, released by Sweden Rock. Of course, there's a sticker over the year. Oh, geez, where the heck is it? I'll just go to the damn website and look at it. 2005.
Okay.
But this one has a lot from some of the later stuff. There's some Kimosabi. There's I don't think it's got any. Yeah, this came out after Kimosabi.
Okay.
So 2 years before Ain't Life Amazing. Stick in My Heart showed up on this. Monkey Shine, Kimosabi, Human Condition, Skinny Buddha. So there's a couple of the big anthems. They're mostly on the other one. This one focuses a little bit more on the later stuff. But I digress. And my number one, and maybe because it's the first one I heard, but I think just about every song is great on this. I love Oral Fixations, despite the goofy, horrible cover. I think Find the Will and World's Such a Wonder are probably two of my favorite Kim Mitchell songs. I fucking love both of those songs. Um, so I could not pick an album that didn't have those. Big Smoke's a great song.
Oh,
Yeah, it's about a stripper, which is pretty funny. The lyrics are pretty funny. There's a Story's a great song. America's great. Honey, Forget Those Blues, the instrumental. I mean, I've put that on just to hear that sometimes.
Yeah,
It
I
just
love
it
that.
just puts you in a good mood. It's got a great groove to it. You know, you kind of bop along to it. It's awesome. It's very different than the rest of the album, but it's awesome. Even Hullabaloo, Dog and a Bone, they're great songs. All these things, most of these things rock. Um, Pure as Gold, some folks, they're your twangy ones, but they're still good. But well, the story I started with, like the first two songs I heard of Kim Mitchell besides Kids in Action on that trip to Toronto were World's Such a Wonder and Find the Will. And that's what I was like, Randy, I got to find this album. And then I had to wait. But my number one was an easy pick, Oral Fixations, 92.
Yeah, my top three was constantly shifting and turning. I had a hard time figuring out how I was going to rank these top three, but ultimately, I decided, all right, I'm not going to overthink this anymore. I had at one point over the last week or so, I had Oral Fixations also as number one. I really like this album a lot. I will echo everything Chad just said. I think there's a lot of good variety on here. It all works. Really, I think Flames is really the only song that doesn't do a lot for me. The rest is so
Yeah.
good. I mean, World's Such a Wonder, Pure as Gold, Big Smoke, leading off the album like that. America's terrific. It's a lot of fun. And his guitar work is amazing on here. And there's great choruses everywhere. Yeah, the album cover is god awful, but it's a really, again, this is another one of those albums, 1992. Why wasn't this a hit? It's amazing to me. It's just so good. So that's my number three. Could be higher. It's amazing. I couldn't put it at number one because it is an EP, but number two is going to be the Kim Mitchell debut EP. Everything you guys said, every song on here is a complete banger. I mean, to me, he kind of looks like a rock star there.
Yeah.
And this is like rock star stuff on here. This amazing guitar work, hooks everywhere. The vocals are outstanding. It just from start to finish, it just slams. It's one of the best EPs ever of all time. I mean, if you were like to go and pull out like the 10 most incredible EPs that have ever been released, in rock history, how do you not include this?
There's a musical musings from the wild for you, Pete.
Yeah, the best EPs of all time, right? It's definitely one of them. It's so good. You listen to it and it's like, after I mean, how long is this? Like 20,
Yeah, it's quick.
20
25.
minutes, 25 minutes, right? And you want more. You're like, God, couldn't you just toss like three more songs on here? It's like, but as is, it's perfect, right? But because it's so short, I couldn't have it at number one. But my number one, George is going to love me for this because George is going to be like, see, Pete stuck to his guns and he went for the big guitar album. Ain't Life Amazing?
Okay.
I love this
Wow.
album. Yeah, I love this album. I think this is, and again, he's using the same band members as the album that came before. It's good to see kind of a little bit of consistency there. Title track is just great. I mean, it's upbeat, big chorus, cranking guitar riffs, rock that rhyme. Again, another great chorus, great riffs, blazing leads. His cover of Spirits, I Got a Line on You, as Chad mentioned, is absolutely terrific.
Hmm.
I don't generally go for covers all that much, but this is really good.
It's a
It's
good one.
really, really well done. He some does some different things with it, which I like. It still has the song. It's still the song, but he adds his own flair to it, which I think is really, really good. Dream Thieves. I really love. Again, another example of him doing that kind of mid-pace, moody thing. And it reminds me. I keep bringing him up, but some of this stuff reminds me so much of what Steve Lukather does in Toto and on his solo albums, and I love it. That kind of like moody, atmospheric rock stuff that on the surface maybe kind of sounds unspectacular, but the more you listen to it, the more you're like, wow,
Yeah.
that little
Good
guitar
song.
lick. Oh, that kind of that nice use of the keyboards, the pre-chorus and the chorus, the backing vocals. It all just really works for me. What else on here? Stars Tonight is great. Killer's Name. Love that. Lick a Message. I love the guitar licks on that. Just really good. And I like Northern Nights. I think that's just really catchy and infectious. And I love the fact, here he is on the cover. He's decided, all right, let's, I know I've got the big receding hairline. Let's just shave the head. Let me do the devil horns. I got my guitar out. I love it. So yeah, great album for me. I really dig this a lot. And that's my number one.
We'd be remiss if we don't mention two of the songs that are on the live album. Not that this is part of the ranking, but I Am a Wild Party is a blast. That
Yep.
song's freaking great. That's up there in the top 10 for me, too. Um, Another stupid video, by the way, if you ever look that up on YouTube. Wow. But it's a phenomenal song. It's a lot of fun. Very, crowd participation kind of thing. And then the other new song on here, which is actually an old Max Webster song that never got released until that EP or the thing in the box set, the bootleg, is a Deep Dive. Not a bad song, but the original version of it shows up on this with the box set. Um, and one thing I wanted to mention about Gopher Soda, I think it was picked up back in was '84 as like an anthem for mothers against drunk driving
Mhm.
because soda instead of beer or whatever you're drinking. But apparently the song has nothing to do with that. I think he was at a party with a friend, and it may have been Pied de Bois actually, and something about like he said somebody I forget how the phrase "go for soda" came up. Might as well go for soda, and he started thinking of all these things after it, like nobody dies, nobody cries. So he was like, I could do this all day. He's like, let's make a song out of that. So really, what the theme of it is, it's a couple that has had an argument, and they pretty much give up on the argument. You know what? This is stupid. Let's just go for soda. So that's what it's really about.
I mean, it totally. I mean, I'll read it. Might as well go for a soda. Nobody hurts. Nobody cries. Might as well go for a soda. Nobody drowns. Nobody dies. It sounds like, well, if you stay away from the alcohol, nothing bad's
Right,
going to happen.
right.
But that's hilarious that it has like absolutely nothing to do with that.
Zero.
Yeah.
And he was. I heard him talking about the intro to that song, that real clean guitar sound. They were in a studio that was way too close to one of the Toronto airports, and they were getting a lot of interference, a lot of RF, and they had to just find a frequency where the guitar would cut through, and that's how they got that sound at the beginning. So he had to use that sound because otherwise there would have been interference all over the place.
Too funny.
But what a great song! I mean, I
Yeah.
could listen to that song all day long.
Oh yeah, it's so much fun. So much fun. You would think, and again, going back this whole what if thing, that was, a moderate hit here in the States, and why they didn't try to jump on that with something else. It's
Yeah.
like, because I'm sure a lot of people are like, oh yeah, go for Soda Kim Mitchell, that one hit wonder guy.
Right?
But it shouldn't have been that way, right?
Mhm.
There's plenty of stuff on that album, on the
Right.
next album that they could have pushed, and it just never came to be. It's really, really weird. I don't know what it is about Canadian artists here in the States. If you're not Rush, Triumph to an extent, but like if you really look at it,
Saga too, right? Same thing. You get
Saga also, yeah, the Saga's
Tragic,
another great example.
tragically hip.
tragically
Another
hit.
one.
Yep.
They didn't really
Yeah,
cross over down here.
yeah, yeah. It's just, and yeah, I mean, Saga, crap, there's so many songs in the Saga catalog that were tailor made for this country, and just like,
Yeah, I mean, On the Loose was on MTV, and that was about it.
That was it. And again, they never tried to the label never said, all right, let's strike while the iron's hot. What else can we get from this band? It just never happened. They'd never
Yeah.
even bothered. It's like, because sometimes with some of these bands that they have that one big hit, the label will keep trying, right? They'll say, okay, well, let's release another single, do another video. We'll just keep going because that one caught fire, and let's catch lightning in a bottle. But it's almost like I don't remember any other song from Ken Mitchell, from Saga, that the record labels and MTV tried to continually push after that one big one. None.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
It doesn't make
Very
sense. And again, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that there's just so many new artists coming out. And so what's popular today isn't necessarily going to be popular tomorrow. So let's go the new flavor of the month, right? It's just they're always looking for that next big thing. So I don't know. They never asked us when they make these decisions, right? So
Right.
unfortunately,
And bands were given less time to develop as when the
true.
70s disappeared.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
it's very true. And maybe because Akimbo overall as an album didn't really sell all that well, because sometimes a single will drive like big sales of an album.
yeah,
And if the single does pretty well but still nobody's buying the album, maybe the labels are kind of like, you know there's
yeah.
not much else there for everybody of interest. So I don't know, who knows. Who knows? Anyway, so for folks watching who are familiar with this catalog, feel free to rank them as you like them down in the comments below. What was really interesting about this ranking is that we were fairly different throughout. There were some similarities here and there, but I think that also plays to the strength of the catalog, that anything could wind up in the top three spots, right? And then
Yeah.
they're all really great choices, no matter where you go throughout this catalog. So rank them as you like them down in the comments below. But most importantly, if you've never listened to any of these albums, please go out and check them out and come back and let us know what you think. That's the most important thing. Hopefully, we're turning people on to new albums that they've never heard before that will hopefully become favorites of them going forward. So I
If
want
you
to
want a
thank.
good intro, this greatest hits is a really nice intro.
How many tracks are on that?
There are 17, but two of them are little short live snippets of Go for Soda. One is called Transcendental Soda. The other one is called Hair Soda, Hare. So there's 14 songs on it, plus the two little interlude thingies.
That's a nice introduction right there.
Yeah.
This other one's got 16 songs plus the live DVD.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So, and you can find most of this stuff out there in the wild. I mean, if you go on Discogs or eBay or whatnot, or even Amazon, you should be able to find a lot of this stuff. I think most of it's still in print or used copies are out there. But go check it out, please. I mean, that's what it's all about, finding new favorite music. So I want to thank both Chad and Eric for joining me here today on this fun ranking. We'll have in the co-captains chairs next week. We're going to be having John Gaffney and Rich Catino coming back. We're going to be ranking the album's much shorter catalog of Liege Lord, great underground metal band from here in the US in the 80s. They've got 3 albums, really, really good ones. We're going to be ranking Liege Lord next week. And we've got coming up, we've got Loggins and Messina coming up in the upcoming weeks. Stephen Reed and I are doing Palace eventually, a great Scottish prog band. God, what else? Night Flight Orchestra. There's all sorts of stuff on the to-do list. I know there's another one I'm missing that's coming up real soon. I can't remember. I got the olds. Trying to remember all this stuff is just ridiculous because the calendar and the schedule is just so long, and I'm like,
Too much, Pete. Too much.
yeah. As soon as we stop recording, we go, oh yeah, those are the other ones coming up. Whatever. That's whatever. So anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube all together. All
All
the
the
damn
damn
time.
time.
Please subscribe if you haven't already and click on that notification bell so you get alert of all of our content as a post. And please do hit the like button before you leave. Ken Mitchell is our artist of today. Rank them as you like them down below. And we'll see you next week here on Ranking the Albums for Chad Hutchinson and Eric Porter. Have a good rest of the weekend, everybody. And we'll see you tomorrow for the Hudson Valley Squares. Take care. Bye-bye.